Here we go. We are recording. Nice. Live.
Episode 5.
Episode 5
Yay.
live with Strong by Lee and Powered by Pam. Trillist to the realist. Somebody asked me the other day on our Facebook page, you ever thought about doing an alliteration like your friend Pam? You know how it's Powered by Pam? What about Lean by Lee? It's like, Lean by
I
Lee.
liked it. I was like, this could work. This could actually work.
Lean by Lee.
But
That
it's
one.
that word lean that I feel like doesn't really go with you and your personality.
Yeah, I'm more
Yeah.
about getting people mentally and physically strong.
Strong.
It's a Strong
Yeah.
by
Strong.
Lee. Simply
Yeah.
because I don't really care about being lame. No, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding.
Yeah.
I care about being
You
lean. I
know,
care.
I also want to make a point that if anyone is new and joining us or anyone is listening, that every single person that I knew that listened to episode 4 was flabbergasted about how intelligent David was. So, David, you should be very proud of yourself.
No, listen. It's all relative. If somebody who thought I was smart because they heard me talking about my subject expertise,
Mm-hmm.
then it wouldn't be so surprising if all of a sudden I started talking to them about their subject matter. For
Yeah.
example, if I was to talk to you about how would you teach an elementary schooler, I would have not the slightest idea, but you
Yeah.
would you would say something along the lines of, well, here we'll set the curriculum like this, boom, 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 because here's the progression of how the kids learn. Yeah, that so I only sound smart and relative. I'm not rejecting the compliments. I can take all the compliments that I can receive. I'm just saying I think it's all relative.
Yeah. Okay.
There's also a difference between sounding smart and actually being smart.
Being
I've
smart.
worked I've worked really hard at sounding smart.
Yeah.
That's one of the downsides of being a narcissist. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, man.
Yeah, like, yeah, well, yeah, sure. Yeah, I know. So episode 5, we are going to talk about a few things today. In our previous episodes, we talked a lot about mindset.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really important concept because those are two of the big things you and I touched on a lot during our
Mhm.
work together. Today, we'll talk a little bit more about if somebody was to work with us or if they wanted to work with a coach, a health coach, and they wanted to get started on a fitness routine. Because I would go out and venture to say most people are looking to start a routine, or maybe they've done a routine in the past and they're trying to restart,
Mhm.
whether they thought about restarting before the pandemic or during the pandemic. We're going to go over some basic starting points we believe would be great for people who want to get started or want to restart on a fitness routine. This is not for people who are competitive athletes, people who have been doing this for years and they're in a routine. This is for people who just want to get started and feel a little bit more confident about moving. And then maybe if we have time later on in the episode, we'll follow up from our previous episode and talk about the inner critic, particularly what would keep people from executing on the behaviors and the strategies we lay out earlier on in the episode.
Yeah.
Right?
Solid.
Solid. All right. First thing we want to talk about is the first point we decided to talk about is starting slow. Why don't you give us a rundown on what you mean by starting slow?
So, you and I were both precision nutrition certified. And, in that course, they talk about having different levels of clients, right? You have a level 1 client, a level 2 client, and a level 3 client, and they specify that most of these clients are going to fall under a level 1, meaning that they're able to follow through maybe 75% of the time that they're consistent, and they either have, a basic knowledge of nutrition or fitness, or maybe little to none. So when I say starting out slow, again, I'm also speaking from experience. So things that I've studied and things from experience. When you're starting out slow, you don't want to do everything all at once. People think to themselves, okay, when Monday rolls around, I'm going to get on it and I'm going to go full force and I'm going to lose 50 pounds and I'm going to do this in 8 months and it's going to be great. When you do that, I don't want to say that you're setting yourself up for failure, but it's too much at once. It can be very overwhelming. It can be very overwhelming on you mentally and physically. So you want to make sure that you're starting with the basics, that you're starting off slow, which kind of leads to what I was saying about, adding things in, right? When I say starting off slow, one example of that could be, instead of tracking your macros, making sure that you have a fruit or vegetable at every single meal. Making sure that you're drinking enough water during the day. That's starting off slow, because that right there, you're adding in something healthy. You're not saying, I'm going to go full force and I'm not going to have any sweets, any sugar, any junk, no fruit, because fruit has sugar. You're starting off slow and you're giving yourself what your body needs: fruit, vegetables, water. I feel like in a 2-week period, you probably could feel better if you start to do that.
Mhm.
Nutrition wise, same thing with fitness wise. People think, oh, okay, I have to go to this class and I have to do this HIIT class and it's going to, kick my ass and I'm not going to be able to move the next day and it's going to be hard and I'm going to hate it. It also doesn't need to be like that either. I feel like establishing a very consistent workout routine is starting off slow, honestly. If you want to be in the gym 5-6 days a week, if you want to be doing cardio several days a week, if you want to be strength training 3 to 4 days a week, maybe start off with 2 days and see how that goes. Maybe start off with doing cardio 2 days also and see how that goes. That way you're in the gym 4 days instead of the 6 days that you want, or maybe even 3 days. I feel like starting off slow, fitness and nutrition, that would be my first key point, to just take it slow, one thing at a time. Don't overwhelm yourself, because as someone that overwhelmed myself, it's a recipe for disaster in the end.
When when I first started working with you, I really didn't have my work cut out for me. You came to me with a pretty solid foundation. When
Hmm.
I My work cut out for me, not with you because you've had that solid foundation. I just repeated myself, just said it in a different order of words. I guess I had a long day. I went to the aquarium with my kids today and I was touching rays. It was really cool. And touch like the Norwalk Aquarium. It was really cool. One ray actually came up to me and let me touch him. He just stayed there. And
Oh, cute.
it was really cool. And then he splashed like this, just to say, okay, enough, get away from me. Anyways, he's like, you didn't start off slow.
Yeah.
When I first started working with you, you had an idea of what would work and what wouldn't work for you. It was
Yeah.
I would probably go so far as to say my job with you was kind of easy in that regards, because if I recommended or we spoke about a particular suggestion, you would go out and do it right away.
Hmm.
Your big issue was being either patient enough or just being too hard on yourself,
Yeah.
meaning thinking you weren't doing enough. You
Hmm.
didn't feel like you were doing enough. A lot of people, and if we reverse engineer this starting slow paradigm, a lot of people, they want to do more or they believe they need to do more, but mentally they might not even be ready to do that single step.
Hmm.
When I sit down with somebody who's brand new to fitness and we're talking, I'll usually ask them, what does your idea of fitness look like? Where did you get your education of fitness? If you have some preconceived notion of weight loss or what it takes to lose weight, where did that knowledge come from? Did you get it from an article? Did you get it from a video? Did you talk to somebody? And what do you think are the required steps in order for you to get to where you want to go? After they tell me what they know, I'll tell them, all right, you want to lose 30 pounds. We're going to try to reconcile what you know with what might actually be required for you to lose 30 pounds. And I will list out everything they need to do eventually in order to lose 30 pounds. Basically, what you said stacked on top of each other, making sure you're eating at least half of your body weight in ounces of water, making sure you're eating enough protein, getting vegetable intake for the fiber so you're regular, getting enough sleep, 6 to 9 hours of sleep, making sure you have key supplementation, you're engaging in enough aerobic exercise, you're working out enough in terms of strength training, because we don't want to burn too many calories through exercise while you're in a calorie deficit, because that would stress your body out too much. I'll say all of these things. We'll put it down on a paper, or we'll brainstorm it. We'll do a thought experiment, and then I'll ask them, how likely are you to do all of these things at once? And more often than not, most of the people who come to me wanting to lose weight, they're going through a pretty big transition in their life. Forget about them wanting to lose weight. Maybe they just got fired from a job. They want to get a revenge body. I've had a couple of those. Like, I just broke up with my boyfriend or girlfriend. I want a revenge body. I want to make them feel really jealous. Or they went through a really traumatic experience in their life, or they just moved. And I'm thinking to myself, have you ever tried to change your health or improve your health while you're going through a major transition? And they'll say no. It's like, you need motivation in order to get through the trenches in your life. You need motivation in order to get started on a fitness routine. Trying to combine them together is the concept we are talking about of trying to do too many things at once. You combine trying to do too many things at once in terms of fitness, and then trying to combine that with a major life event. And like you said, these people are setting themselves up for failure.
Yeah.
My most successful clients, you included, their lives were pretty boring and stale when they came to me.
Thanks.
Like, yeah, I mean, boring and stale in terms of, yeah.
Yes.
Like nothing was exciting.
Yeah.
Right? Nothing was exciting, because when your life is pretty boring and simple, you know what to expect. Now you're mentally ready to be like, okay, I think I'm ready for a change in terms of fitness. And I've been thinking about it for a while, but a lot of times when people are going through this major life event, they have this epiphany.
Yeah.
And they believe this epiphany is what's required in order for them to change. People who change via epiphany are the exception, not the rule. There are people who wake up one morning and look at themselves in the mirror and be like, I really hate the way I look. They've been gaining weight year after year. 10 years later, they're 50 pounds overweight. Like, I really need to change. But if you look below the surface, these people didn't just wake up and say, I need to lose weight after they see themselves being 50 pounds overweight. They've probably looked at themselves in the mirror many times before, and they're like, you know what? I need to lose weight, but I'm not going to do it this time. Oh, I need to lose weight. I don't have the motivation. They've been thinking about it for a very long time, but it just so happened that that particular day that they decided to take action.
Yeah.
So in very rare instances does somebody wake up just one morning and their thought process just completely shifts. When I list out these steps that are required in order for them to lose weight, they'll say, there's no way that I can do all these things. I have so many commitments. I have kids. I have a full-time job. I got all these things. All right. If you don't believe you can do all these things at once, why don't we try starting with 1, 2, or maybe at the most 3 things, and see if you can manage those for 2 to 4 weeks. Depending on how well you do with those, then we'll either try to polish those strategies up a little bit more. For example, let's say I've worked with clients who they don't drink even a glass of water. They'll survive on coffee and soda. Says, how are we going to get you to drink more water? They're like, I freaking hate the taste of water. I didn't even know water had a taste. I hate the taste of water. Says, what are the chances of you drinking 4 ounces of water per day? Like, 4 ounces, that's it. It's like, it's not about getting you to half your body weight in ounces right away. It's about helping you create some sort of routine and meeting you where you are, right? Very similar to what you're saying. We need to get this person. For you, when we reverse engineer it, we're looking at the overarching strategy, getting them to drink water. How can we get this person to drink more water? How can we make it as convenient and as easy as possible for this person to drink water? Do we need to put this water in a nightstand so as soon as they wake up? That's the first thing they see. I'm going to drink water as soon as I wake up. Do we need to create triggers, meaning after I brush my teeth or before I brush my teeth, I'm going to drink water? Do we need to set an alarm for somebody? Do we need to put the water bottle, boom, right next to their workstations so they have to see that water the whole time? And then, like you said, like you're alluding to, we start them slow and then we taper up as they're comfortable, as they're consistent enough. You have an awesome strategy that has worked wonders for you, and I'm sure it'll work for a lot of people. And that is getting a calendar, marking off all the days
Yep.
that you are successful. Why don't you go into a little bit more about that? What did you actually do, and what kind of results did you see, and how did it make you feel about the habit you're trying to produce?
Yeah. So I got this from Jordan Sayat.
Mhm.
Once again, I'm talking about
Yeah,
him.
no, dude, he's
Um,
awesome. He's awesome. We're
and
gonna invite him onto
so
this show
yeah,
one day.
for anyone listening that doesn't know who Jordan Sayat is, he's extremely well known in the fitness industry. Check him out on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, TikTok. I mean, he has it all. He's extremely well known, very knowledgeable, and has a lot of really great long-term strategies that everyday people can use in their lives to be successful. Um,
And
so one thing he
you people
talks
think I'm smart. Wait till you listen to Jordan's side.
so one thing that he talks about is how do you know that you're being consistent, right? Because the recommendation when you're talking to someone about, the realistic expectations for seeing consistency is that you want to be 80% consistent. My issue with that though is when someone would say you should be 80% consistent. Well, what does that even mean, right? So Jordan Syatt suggests getting a calendar and for 30 days, right? There's 30 days in a month. Um, if you want to see 80% consistency, that means that about 24 to 25 of those days out of those 30, 31 days, you're going to be consistent. That means that you're going to either hit your macros or your nutrition plan, and you're going to hit your fitness plan, whatever that is, whatever that workout is for that day. Or maybe it's your rest day, and then that's fine too. Every day that you hit that, I put a check mark, or for him I put, he has an X. For every day that you either don't hit your nutrition plan, or maybe you skip a workout, then I put an X. Okay, so check mark when I meet my macros and when I follow through on my workout. And I put an X if I skip a workout, or I have my reward meal, and I call it reward because it is a reward for working so hard. And if I do that, I put an X. And, at the end of the month and end of those 30 days, 31 days, I look to see how many X's there are. Are there 8, or are there 4, 5, 6 X's? Um, and that is how I truly have seen a difference. Because even with the holidays coming up, right? Like we're in December, Christmas is this week. I Something that I did at the very end of November was I sat down and I looked at the month of December, and I put an X through days that I knew already. Like I was like, Christmas, forget about it. Christmas Eve, forget about it. New Year's, forget about it. And I was still left with a few days that I could reward myself, right? That I could either skip a workout or, kind of reward myself, or so indulge. And when I did it like that, it seemed a lot more likely that I was going to be able to reach the goals that I was going for. Because when it's 5 or 6 days that you have in a month that you can, give yourself some leeway, that means that you at least are allotting for yourself one time on the weekend. At least for me, that's the way that I see it. Saturday is usually my day. So like every Saturday, I could relax a little bit, knowing that, my meal, which is typically dinner, is going to be something that I've been craving. Um, and then throw a couple more days in there. Maybe you had a really bad day and you're like not working out today, or maybe you had a really busy day and you're like, I'm not cooking dinner, I'm getting takeout and I want Chinese. I mean, that's what it is. It's different for everyone. And that's one method, and it works for me. And it's not something that I would say to someone, you have to do this. But I have found that that was a strategy that has been working extremely, extremely well for me. That goes with my fitness and nutrition plan. And I think that it's something that could work for a lot of people, especially busy people. They sit down ahead of time and like map out that month of days that they know are going to be X's, and then days they know are going to be check marks. It's a really good way to hold yourself accountable. And that is how you know for a fact if you're at least 80% consistent.
I think the calendar chain is an extremely good suggestion for people of any backgrounds to start, because at the core of it is accountability. It's the same reasoning behind why I ask people to track their food and send it to me, because it's really difficult to make suggestions if we don't know that, if we don't have the data. If I don't know what somebody's eating, what they're drinking, what they're doing throughout the day, it's really hard for me to make any sort of suggestion, whether it's add this or subtract this. I don't know where he got the recommendation from. I first heard of the calendar chain from Jerry Seinfeld. Do you know who Seinfeld is?
Yes.
I know who Jerry Seinfeld. Have you ever seen Seinfeld?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I feel so not cultured. I think my excuses is because I'm Asian. But
Yeah.
then I was born in I was born in the US. I don't really have an excuse.
Excuses.
Excuses. No excuses. You're a coach, aren't you?
Yeah.
I've never seen a full episode of Seinfeld, but Jerry Seinfeld, I first heard about the calendar chain from him, in which when he was a budding comedian and he wanted to really work on his jokes, he would create this calendar. He would make a red X to denote how many days he would successfully practice his jokes. And his goal was to not break the chain. For somebody who wants to get started with the calendar chain, you want to choose a couple of different strategies, because I don't think it's smart to put all somebody's eggs in one basket. For example, if you only have one strategy, I want to do 10 minutes of walking every single day, it's really easy to not have an X, especially in the beginning. If you pick 3 easy things, 10 minutes of walking, drink 8 ounces of water, or limit screen time to 2 hours a day instead of 3 hours. If you have 3 of those things, you can make an X for just, even if you successfully complete one of those things, you can give yourself an X. Because like you said, we're going back to the essence of starting slow. We're trying to establish one habit at a time. And if we give people habit options, they won't feel so pressured to just do this one thing. That can work for some people. It won't work for everyone. We're just throwing ideas out there.
Yeah.
Right? I think the calendar chain is a really good idea.
Yeah. And I think also, ultimately, if you really think about everything that we're saying, the pattern that I'm seeing is planning, right? And I feel, we're saying start slow, do this, do that, do the calendar thing. All of that requires planning. I think probably the first step and the most important thing that we didn't discuss was creating a plan, creating a plan. Because also that you're being held accountable by sticking to that plan. So you have to create a realistic plan of what you think as a person that you could stick to. And I think that a lot of people, they make a plan and they're not even keeping themselves in mind. They're keeping this like alternate universe side of them in mind. And I also say that from my own experience, I'm not going to eat this and I'm not going to eat that. And who cares if I'm hungry? I'm just going to live with it. What a rude awakening that is when you are, trying to completely cut sugar out of your diet and you're like 3 months in and eating only 1,000 calories a day. I mean, it's painful, or when you're saying to yourself, I need to go to the gym 7 days a week. I need to go to the gym 7 days a week because I can't have a day off. In what alternate universe are you thinking that you starting from scratch is going to be able to handle that? And again, from experience, because I used to be like that. No days off, because then I failed, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I see you're getting a lot more comfortable with the interviews, because you're basically throwing superlatives out there, hyperbole. In what alternate universe do you think you could go to the gym 7 days a week? You're definitely getting more comfortable. If we go back to
I'm also talking to myself, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's the best way.
Those were the unrealistic expectations that I used to set for myself. And I also think that if anyone's human, that they have done the same thing, that they have set unrealistic expectations for themselves. and they're not able to follow through on them. And then, they feel like they have failed themselves. If I were to sit here and say that, I want to lose 30 pounds, I mean, we both know that that's not going to happen. No matter how hard I try. I mean, okay, you're probably saying to yourself, I could do it, but it would be bad. It would be really, really bad. I would be setting myself up for making myself feel like I have failed. So I feel like making a realistic plan is important. Like you're saying, lay out what you need to do to get to be where you want to be. What things do you think that you can currently do? And choose just a couple of those things. Choose one, two, maybe three of those things. I mean, again, like I said, having a fruit or vegetable at every meal, half your body weight in water, quality protein at every meal. Those would be like my first three recommendations if you're getting started. Those aren't overwhelming. I don't think that's too much to ask of someone. Again, if that amount of water is too much, start off even smaller than that. But you have to map it out of what your goals are, how you're going to get there, what are the things that you currently can do, and pick from those things just a couple that you want to work on for, like you're saying, 2-3 weeks before you think about adding something else in.
I agree. Now, here's the tough part.
Yeah.
The tough part would be, I imagine most people suck at planning. Most people would suck at planning despite.
They're not like me. I'm kidding.
Well, you personify the alternate universe of many people. I want to be like Pam. What alternate universe do you think you could be like me? No, I'm just playing. I think no. I'm being dead serious. In this, I would say a vast majority of people, even if they write down what they think they need to do, it's tough because many people suck at having a conversation with themselves and being honest with themselves.
Yeah.
How many of us believe we actually know what's good for us, yet fail to execute on those beliefs? How many of us are ambivalent, meaning we have certain beliefs and convictions and values, yet our behaviors and our actions betray those convictions? This is where I believe a coach is super valuable, because they can bridge that gap. A simple conversation with a coach who can lay out. Here's the thing. I've had many counseling sessions in which somebody comes up to me and they lay out what exactly they need to do. They know what they need to do. They just have a difficult time. Playing it through their heads. Is this really what I need to do? Is this really what I need to do? Because they don't really know how to get underneath the surface of drinking more water, right? We're going back to drinking more water because a lot of people have a difficult time meeting their water needs. Water, our body is made up of over 60% water. It is an essential compound. We need it to survive. It's responsible for every metabolic process in our body. Many people will admit, I need to drink more water, but I don't know how to drink more water. On a superficial level, they know what they need to do, but on a specific granular level, they don't know how to set up their environment. And this is, I think, where the knowledge of a coach who has experience can help them.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right. Whether that coach has gone through a specific rigorous industry leading nutrition certification program and then put it into practice, or somebody who has anecdotal experience, they can bridge that gap. This is a little bit of a digression, but I'm going to bring it back. Peloton is killing it right now.
Yeah.
Peloton is absolutely crushing it. They just announced a deal with Precor, a $460 million deal. Their stocks shot through the roof, skyrocketed. It's in the stratosphere, right? You want to go space exploring, hop on the Peloton Express. What I find interesting is many people are buying the Peloton bikes, and a lot of these people who are buying these Peloton bikes, they don't really have experience working out. But Peloton makes it super easy. Why? Because the bike is there, it's expensive, you pay a monthly membership, you hop on and you spin. You
Yeah.
have an instructor, you have all these classes, you just follow instructions. You turn off all the mental processing that's really required for goal setting and learning how to lift, and you just spin. For a lot of people, Peloton can get people into shape. It can help people lose weight. It can help people get active. It can help people feel better about themselves, right? For a lot of people, Peloton is really all they need.
Yeah.
They want to take things a little bit further, be like, hey, you know what? I want to do something a little bit more than just thousands of reps on my legs and 2.5 pound dumbbells. I want to do a little bit more. I want to see how
Hmm.
much I can lift. I want to be able to do a chin up. I want to be able to do a push up. When they get to that point, then what we're talking about, they need to be a little bit more strategic and deliberate. It's not just, oh, set it up and forget it. I think coming back around, Peloton takes the planning process
Yeah.
out of the process, makes it super easy for somebody to just start getting in shape and losing weight using Peloton. But when you have more specific goals, such as I want to lose a certain amount of fats and I want to get I want to achieve a certain amount of strength or performance goal, that's when people need to start planning a little bit more.
Um, to go off of that, you actually make an extremely good point. So before I had started training with you, when I was at my small group training gym, one of the things that was so great about this gym is that it's not like I went in and I created the workout. I would go in and there would be the workout written on the board for me. It took away that thought process for me, right?
Yep.
I didn't really need to be strategic. I knew that if I was going in on a Monday, that it was full body. I knew Wednesday was density class. I knew Thursday was a circuit. Um, I knew exactly what I was getting myself into every single time that I walked in there. Again, the workouts were written right there for me. All I had to do was do them, right? Under the supervision of a coach. And when I finally, I moved to White Plains and I joined New York Sports Club. And again, at that point in my life, I was having a lot of issues with food because of the constant toll that I had, put on myself from cleansing and dieting and cutting all the, severely restricting myself with food and, some injuries that you know of from my gym that I was going to. And so I was so lost. I had no idea what to do. And I am so lucky that and we mentioned this in the very first episode, that my co-teacher that I was working with at the time had just started going to you. And she knew that I, was really into, getting in shape, but I just had no idea what to do or where to go. And she was like, you really got to check out David because he knows what's up. And here I am. This is not an offense to you, but here I am thinking that David, you were going to be this like big, intimidating, ripped guy. And, we had a phone conversation, uh, basically like the precursor for me coming in and trying out a session with you. And I remember meeting with you and I was like, oh, this is David.
This is David. Totally
And
not what
then
I
like
imagined. Not
everyone
and not.
praised you about how amazing you were and how great you were, all of your clients that were there. And I was like, wow, this dude must really know what he's talking about. So anyways, the reason why I started going with you is because you and I only train together 1 day a week. And my purpose for that was, beside the fact that I'm really poor, is that
We're gonna try to change that in the future, Pam.
besides
We're
the
gonna
fact
start. We're gonna start a Patreon.
that I
Once we get
had
in.
limited funds, my goal was wanting to learn how to do it on my own. I
Mhm.
had gotten to a point in my life where I was seeing, and this is actually where social media is good, I was seeing really fit people working out and they were doing it on their own. And I was like, you know what? I really want to be like that. And it's up to me to get myself there. So how am I going to do that? And so luckily, you just popped into my life, which was fantastic. And and I went to you 1 day a week for all of that time, and that was fantastic. And you gave me the plans of what nutrition I was following, what workout I was going to follow. But the main thing was that I was able to implement that plan on my own. I was able to go back into the gym on my own. I was able to go home, follow through with the nutrition plan, to the very best of my ability, and be pretty consistent with it throughout those few years that we were together.
Mhm.
And from that, I learned so much that it got to the point where, now I'm pretty, you and I, we still have conversations, and, I'm always going to need help to some extent because I'm always evolving, always trying to work on myself. But now I'm much more very self-sufficient, with my workouts and with my nutrition. And the reason being was because I used to have that thought process, just like a Peloton, in my gym that I went to. I didn't have to think about
Mhm.
anything, to being completely on my own. And that's where, that comfort got taken away, and I had to have a plan. I had to have a course of action, and that's where you came in. And that's the value of having a coach, is that they are able to take someone who has no idea what to do,
Mhm.
and they're able to guide them.
Thank you for showering me with praise. Now I don't need to take a shower later tonight.
Mm.
Just kidding. I definitely still need to take a shower. My hair is getting long and greasy.
Routine life.
Exactly. Quarantine life.
Hmm.
Not to pound on the issue of coach. The coach, the programming, the Peloton, all of these things have one thing in common, and that is what they do is they change your environment. And I don't think there's anything special about a coach in that regards, right? Because even if, let's say, for example, somebody, they're nothing about their life changes, but they hire a coach. Their environment is different. Why? Because now they are in, they may not be answering to somebody, but they have somebody who is showing interest in them, who cares about their results, and they're most likely going to be paying for this coach. So there are two incentives. There's a social incentive, and then there's a monetary incentive. It changes the name of the game, which is why a lot of people hire other services to help them with accountability. But in and of itself, a coach is not really that special, because people can still achieve what they would achieve with a coach as long as they change their environment. One of the big follow-up questions I ask people when we start listing out some of these strategies is,
Hmm.
what about your environment do you think is really screwing you up right now? Is it what you're eating at work? Is it the type of, I have a client who is otherwise in fantastic shape, but the big Achilles heel for him is, as a teacher, he has many coworkers and colleagues who may not be on the same page in terms of health and fitness, bringing in cakes, cookies, and donuts. He doesn't have any of that stuff at home, but when he goes to work, all bets are off.
I
He'll
know who
eat.
you're talking about.
Yeah, you know who I'm talking
I
about.
do. Yeah.
He's in really good shape. He's
Yeah,
super
he is.
strong, super nice. But man, he
Hmm.
goes to work and he just, man, his defenses just crumble. He has no willpower at work, but at home he's fine. At home he's fine. It's about what in James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, which is a really great book for habit change, by the way, for the layperson who doesn't want to get too deep in the weeds of scientific jargon terminology. He identifies two really big concepts in order for somebody to change their behaviors, and this really ties everything we're talking about together. Starting small, adding things over time, one at a time. One is you want to change your environments, because if you are in poor shape because of your environment, then you can't expect to get into better shape in the same environments. It's kind of like that saying, the late Jim Rohn, who used to be a success coach, he's one of the original success coaches, motivational speakers. I believe he said this: you are the average of the five closest people around you. Right? That saying is pretty
Yeah.
self-explanatory. I don't think you and I are going to go suggest somebody to cut all their toxic and negative friends out of their
No.
lives. But it's really important to be cognizant of your influences around you. And so you want to change, you want to look at your environment. What about your environment is sabotaging you? What about your environment would prevent you from increasing the likelihood that you can change your behaviors? You change your environment, you identify what about your environment. And then number two, your identity. James Clear makes the argument that people who are the most successful in behavior change, they assume an identity of whatever behavior they're trying to change. Meaning, if you're trying to be fit, you're not just a person who goes to the gym to work out. You are a fit person, because fit
Mhm.
people go to the gym to work out.
Mhm.
You are trying to assume the identity of somebody who has already presumptively made that behavior change. In other words, you're trying to fake it till you make it.
Mhm.
And that's a cliche, but there's some truth to cliches, right?
Yeah.
So you change,
I
yeah.
I I like that you said that because, in precision nutrition, they do talk about environment and environmental factors. And one thing that they do say is that, if you have junk food in front of you, uh, as a result of your environment, eventually you're going to cave into it. It doesn't matter how strong of a person you are and how big your willpower is. Eventually, as a result of your environment, your surroundings, you will cave into that. So yes, you're totally right about changing your environment. For someone like me, an average person, um I am fortunate that I do live on my own because I can completely 100% control what is in my apartment. um Again, going back to Jordan Sayat, he actually talks about the 5-year plan, and that it took him 5 years to be able to have pretzels in his apartment without binge eating them. So being very aware of what you can have in your household. I do stay with my parents a couple nights per week, and my parents have all sorts of food in the house, especially now that it's the holidays. And I would say like 80% of the time I'm really good about it, but 20% of the time I'm not, and it has nothing to do with the fact that I have poor willpower. It's just, man, if it's there and it's there and it's there every single day that I'm there and it's my favorite junk food to eat. I mean, there's going to be a time where I'm going to have it, even, and I am very strong-willed, and you are very strong-willed as well. But it's like changing your environment to be more suitable. And again, it doesn't mean telling your family and your friends to go away. It's just, you have to be able to control what you can control. Like, I can control the food that's in my apartment. If I know that I'm going out to dinner with my friends and I want to be healthier, I'll preview the menu before I go. And I'll usually pick like a seafood dish, the bronzino, the salmon, and I make sure that it's balanced. I make sure that I have some kind of starch, so like potatoes or rice, and I'll make sure that there's some kind of vegetable um, in there too. And then like I'll allow myself to have a couple drinks and split like an appetizer with them. And again, like that's my meal for the week. Um, but by doing that, by kind of planning out, okay, I know that I'm going to be in an environment where I'm going to, kind of fall off track. I prepare for it the best that I can. So environment's it's a big one. It's a big one.
Do you know who David Goggins is?
Yeah, I feel like you've talked about him.
I've talked about it a little bit. I probably talked about it in a slightly negative light, simply because the way he portrays his message, I don't think resonates. It would resonate with a lot of people, and there's a lack of compassion there. But something about David Goggins. David Goggins, for people who don't know, he's the author of Can't Hurt Me. He is a retired Navy SEAL. I don't remember what rank he was, lieutenant or commander or something like that. He was in the Navy SEALs. It took him a while to get into the Navy SEALs, and he was super overweight, super unhealthy, came from a very abusive, traumatic background, but then he overcame all these obstacles one by one, became a Navy SEAL, elite special forces, did all this crazy stuff, and now he's kind of a motivational speaker, he's a guru, and he's really aggressive in his tone. There's hardly any compassion and empathy in the way he speaks. Like, you need to get your together. I don't care. crap who you are. I grew up in the worst possible situations. I was raped, I was beat, all these things, right?
Wait, did he lose like 100 pounds in three
Yes.
months or something?
So, something
The
like, yeah.
mindset mentor talks about him.
Yeah. So David Goggins,
Mhm.
big guy, somebody who needs a little bit more grace and compassion would be totally turned off by him, right?
Yeah.
But what made him really successful is not only his mindset, I think he has an unnatural desire. He's obsessed to the point of mental illness, I believe. But also he goes above and beyond to ensure his environment facilitates. Did I just use the word facilitate? I knew that word was coming out, but I just used it. To support.
Mhm.
He modifies and he orients his environment to support whatever goal that he wants to achieve. That's what he did with Jesse Itzler. There's a book, I forgot what it's called, but before David Goggins struck it big, he was hired by Jesse Itzler. I think he is the husband of, gosh, I forgot her name. She's the founder of creator of Spanx.
Mhm.
I forgot what her name is, something Buckley or whatever it is. He's also co-owner of the Atlanta Hawks NBA team. He hired David Goggins to be the live-in personal trainer because David Goggins is, by a lot of people, considered the toughest man on earth. He does ultra marathons, all these things,
I was
despite
about to say, didn't he run like a 100-mile marathon and he was having like kidney failure
insane. So that's
like
what
the
I'm saying.
last 30 miles or
That's what
something?
I'm saying. He is
Yeah.
insane. He's insane.
Yeah.
He's not for everybody. I would say that he's for the minority. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people would resonate with this message, but to actually do what he did, very, very slim
Crazy.
pickings, very
Yeah.
crazy. But he sets up his environment in a way, he oriented his environment to support his goals. And I don't think that's such a radical, extreme agenda. I think almost anyone can do that. Right. So there's David Goggins. And then also, you make a good point about willpower. What you said about willpower. It doesn't matter how much willpower you have. Most people, 99.9% of people, are not David Goggins. David Goggins has theoretically an unlimited stash of
Yeah.
willpower, but most people do not, which should debunk this idea of willpower. How many people have you spoken to? I know I've spoken to countless numbers of people who come up to me after they failed their fitness routine and said that they are a failure because they don't have willpower and discipline.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
I don't say right away my punchline of willpower is a myth. We work towards it. I ask them questions like, well, why do you feel that you're a failure? Like, what makes you believe that you don't have the discipline or the willpower? Like, where did you even learn this concept of willpower from? You learn it from Women's Magazine or Oxygen, like willpower. But then once we get to the punchline of willpower is a myth. Willpower is based on how much mental bandwidth you have. If you have a really stressful job at work, let's say, and this is where we're going to talk about people with families. If you have two toddlers who are running around and you can't even think straight for 10 seconds, the chances of you the chance of you being consistent on a fitness routine is so much lower than somebody who doesn't have a family.
Mhm.
And I'm not discounting people who are single, and I'm not saying that somebody who has a family isn't going to be achieve their health and fitness goals. What I'm saying is that they're very different situations, right? And somebody who has a family, somebody who has a mentally demanding job, let's say you're a teacher and you have to deal with special needs children, your mental bandwidth is going to be so much more taxed than somebody who might just clock into work, type a few numbers in a spreadsheet, and then go home, right? The willpower at the end of the day is a myth because willpower can be depleted without you doing anything fitness related, which I think kind of brings us to, and we're going to have to try to wrap this up, right? I think we touched on a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
But I think we want to spend a couple of minutes talking about the inner critic.
Yeah.
I think this is important. I think this is important. I don't know if you think this is important.
I do. I just listened to a podcast episode of about the inner critic from Jordan Syatt.
Well, perfect. We're going to try to we're going to try to loop in what you learned. For me, when we're talking about the inner critic, we probably are looking at a voice that says you can't do it, you're not good enough. If you can't get this perfect, then why even try? In other words, what would keep somebody what would keep somebody even from being successful in health and fitness? What would keep somebody from even making the changes to their environment, right? Because making a change to your environment or trying to assume the identity of a fit person, those are all logistical steps. Those are things that you do once you have committed to yourself mentally and emotionally that it is time for you to change. Those come later on. What comes before, in other words, in pre-contemplation, when people aren't even thinking about health and fitness, or when people are just starting to think about health and fitness, because many people are going to run into this wall of the inner critic.
Yeah. Were you going to say something else?
No. I want you to.
So something that I really like that Jordan Syatt does do in a lot of his episodes is he brings someone, because Jordan Syatt, he has the inner circle. That's like his platform of coaching online. So he will bring clients from the inner circle onto his podcast, right? So in this particular episode that I just happened to be listening to about the inner critic, was he was talking to a girl that was in the inner circle, and she like really struggled with the inner critic. She was getting super emotional and was just saying, I don't think that I'm good enough. I don't think that I'm worthy enough of getting in shape. This is someone that she was talking about losing 100 pounds. And she was saying, I don't think that I'm good enough. I don't think that I'm worthy enough. And he was trying to work with her through these emotions. I haven't gotten to finish it yet. I'm only like halfway through. But it was like upsetting to hear that. And something that he says, and I like that he says it, is he says, when that inner demon happens to you and you're telling yourself these thoughts, say it out loud. Say it like you're saying it to someone else. And how crazy does that sound that you would talk to someone like that?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why he was kind of coaching with her, having her say it out loud. And she's starting to realize, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I'm that horrible to myself, because I would never say that to someone.
Mm-hmm.
I would never say to someone, you're not worthy of getting your life together. You're not worthy of being healthy. You're not worthy of that job. You don't deserve it. You don't deserve to be happy. And and it goes back to myself, because realistically we all have that inner voice in our heads that are telling us negative thoughts. It's inevitable. If you're a human, it happens. Actually, statistically, the average person has 60,000 thoughts per day. I think 40,000 of those thoughts are negative, and they're ones that were repeated from the day before.
We have a negativity bias.
Yeah. So
and negative thoughts tend to last 5 to 7 times longer than positive thoughts.
Yeah.
Shows.
So it's like when we're telling ourselves something negative, more than likely it's something that we've told ourselves hundreds and thousands of times before. 60,000 thoughts per day. More than half of those thoughts are ones that you had the day before. And not only that, but they're negative.
Pam, dropping that knowledge bomb. Where's my hard hat at? I need to protect myself from the shrapnel. Man, I got all these numbers, data flying around. I need to protect myself. I think you're absolutely right. And what Jordan Syatt suggested to his clients is a very, I think, common technique in cognitive behavior therapy, where you say it out loud and you listen to yourself and ask yourself, is this if somebody who I really cared about came up to me and said the same thing, would I say what I say to myself to this other person? Most people will say, Absolutely not. Would you say to your friend who is struggling with his or her weight the same things that you were saying to yourself?
Yeah, absolutely not.
Absolutely,
It's
absolutely not.
hurtful.
Right. There's a problem with that though, right? And that is we have a cognitive bias too, right? We have to, I think we should take it one step further. Not only do we want to say it out loud, we want to do what's called cognitive distancing, meaning look at our thoughts and our inner critic from a 30,000-foot view. Look at the merits of those thoughts. Is there any evidence supporting what the inner critic is saying to yourself? If you truly believe that you don't deserve to be fit, why do you believe that? What
Mhm.
evidence is there? What evidence exists that supports that belief? If what evidence doesn't support that belief? Somebody might be telling themselves they don't deserve to be fit, but there's no evidence supporting it. They just feel they don't deserve to be fit.
Yeah.
We have to learn how to parse out what's real and what is a fabrication.
Yeah.
Seneca, an ancient Stoic, once said, "We often suffer more in our imagination than in reality." Right? So we often suffer more in our imagination than in reality. And I think that's the case in a lot of inner critic issues in which people are telling themselves they don't need to be fit, not because it's true, but because they've convinced themselves through previous experiences and interactions with people. One example of a client I had, you know who this is. She's a teacher, she was a teacher. Now she's helping her husband with his business and they're doing
Yes.
extremely well. Two kids. I've never seen, and she was in her early 30s when she started working with me. I have never seen another woman make so much progress in such a short amount of time. When I first started working with her, she's never lifted. In our very first session together, she was struggling to do dumbbell squats with 20, 30 pounds. She was struggling to do single arm dumbbell row with 20 pounds. 6 months later, she's back squatting 225 pounds. She's
Yeah.
doing weighted chin ups with 40 pounds, and she's doing single arm dumbbell row with 100 pounds. I have never in my life encountered, and I've worked with over 500 people, clients, right? And I've actually, I've never seen somebody make such good progress. But talk about somebody who has the worst inner critic.
Yeah.
She told me one specific example when she was in high school. She was late for a track meet. She's heavier. She's a little bit larger. Her teacher says, "Oh, here comes Thunder Thighs. Here comes the dinosaur. Kung, 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 kung," and making fun of her because she slapped the ground a little bit harder than other kids, made a little bit of a noise. And the teacher was making fun of her, right? Those types of things would provide evidence to your inner critic, right? So it's really important to separate the evidence. And then on top of that, just because somebody says that you're big or you're fat or you don't deserve to be in shape, do their words have any merit?
Yeah.
Right? Because who is this person? What credibility does this person have? What influence does this person have over your life? Do they have any right and privilege to say those things to you? All right. I'm going to cut it right there because now I'm getting a little bit too deep into the weeds. So basically,
Yeah.
I also want to say one more thing. I think in the same way that people are afraid of the inner critic or they believe that they're not destined to be fit and healthy, some people might actually resist against being fit and healthy because they don't want to be fit and healthy. Not because they're scared of the inner critic, but because they don't want to be fit and healthy. That sounds so paradoxical, right? I've met people who didn't want to be fit and healthy, despite saying they wanted to be fit and healthy. So they
Hmm.
will sabotage themselves on purpose for
Yeah.
no good reason.
Yeah.
And that is a concept called outcome resistance,
Hmm.
in which they resist against the outcome.
And I think bottom line is that we talk a lot about mindset and we talked about growth mindset and fixed mindset in our last episode. Now we're talking about the inner critic. I think that if you're just starting out on your fitness journey, that some people don't realize how big of a factor mindset is. And that's why we do touch upon it a lot. I had someone that listened to it and they had, our last episode, and they had said like the mindset thing that they were kind of, I think they were a little thrown off as to why we would be talking about mindset. And I explained, mindset is a really big part of getting, in shape and kind of getting your ducks in a row and getting everything in order. And I feel like unless you're on that journey, that maybe it's something that you don't always, realize. But I think the inner critic is something that everyone can relate to. And I know exactly who you're talking about. And she is, she could kill me. She's so strong.
She's soft as a feather.
But she looks so good too. Like she looks so fit, not overweight by any means in my, I haven't seen her in a while, but the last time I saw her, she was killing it. But she was so hard on herself. And I get it because I'm the same way. I've kind of loosened the chains on myself to not be so hard on myself and to be kinder to myself and with my inner critic. But it's, when you see someone and you hear someone being so hard on themselves, especially someone that is so powerful and strong and has so much going for them, it's, the inner critic is very powerful. Very, very powerful.
Right. And before we wrap up, speaking of the mindset thing, people know how to get in shape from a logistics standpoint. You want to know what the best exercise for your legs is? Google it. You want to know what the best 5-day workout program is? Google it. You can Google any plan from any successful person. You rock and roll that for 4 weeks, and most likely you are going to see results. And once you stop seeing results, Google a different plan and try that again. What foods should I eat? What are the superfoods? What 10 foods should I eat? Blueberries, strawberries, spinach, watercress, cabbage. I could tell you what your diet needs to look like in order for you to be successful. You want to get health and fitness? Do these things. Boom, boom, boom. Systematic, logistical, and step by step. But what's keeping people from doing those things? That is where mindset comes in, right? People who don't, people who, I think a vast majority of people who don't understand the role of mindset probably don't really have much of a problem with their mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I know people who are like, I don't really need to do all this mindset stuff. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. Again, those people are they're the exceptions. They are not the rule. They're not the vast majority of people.
Yeah.
All right.
Good episode.
You think so?
I don't know. I'll have to listen to it to see.
Exactly. You have anything else to say before we wrap this up?
I don't think so. I think anything that we need to discuss further will be discussed next time.
Right. Got it. And then as a closing remark, one of the books I am reading to my children every night, and not only just once, twice, 3 times, is Green Eggs and Ham, Dr. Seuss, Green Eggs and Ham. And there's a line at the end that says, try it, you may like it. When Sam I Am is trying to convince the old man to try, he's like, try it, you may like it. And he eventually tries it and he likes it. I guess the parting words what is life about? Is life about avoiding discomfort and taking risks? What is really life about? And I want people to think, health, wealth, and happiness. How will we achieve those things? And if there's something that you're putting off right now and it's within your capability and ability to do it, what's keeping you from taking steps towards those goals? Try it, you may like it.
If not now, then when?
Exactly. All right. Thank you, Pam. That is it for episode 5, Strong by Lee and Powered by Pam, or Powered by Pam and Strong by Lee. We're going to alphabetical order.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to turn off the recording now.